with it. Fact check us later.
Do you remember Pop-Up Video? Did you ever watch Pop-Up Video?
Yes, those were the best. And I didn't even care if I liked the song or not because the facts were so random. You'd be like, oh,
We should do something.
It's it's an adventurer and his pet monkey who go around the world and collect artifacts, and there's cat here. Go around the world and collect artifacts, and those artifacts. Pride. Stay out of this. Okay.
Mystic.
Take 1,000.
I wouldn't mind if you and I would fly away together, fly away forever, honey. I wouldn't mind if you and I would fly away together, fly away.
So what's the number one thing that we're asked when we talk about we went around the world and hit every Disneyland in the world? And
Florida, Paris, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Japan, back home in Anaheim.
What's the number one thing we get asked?
The number one question we get asked is, what is your favorite Disneyland? Or what was your favorite Disneyland along the way?
Right. And the good news is, there was no Disneyland that disappointed us. Every Disneyland was impressive in its own way.
And there's definitely no least favorite Disneyland. There wasn't any one that we were disappointed in. Most of them were more than what we expected.
But in answering our question, what is our favorite Disneyland park in the world? I think that we both agree that we can't include Disneyland Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, we're both from Southern California. We both grew up with that as our Disneyland. It's the original. It's the one that all the Disneylands are based off of. It's the only one that Walt really had his hands in.
It's the only park he literally walked through. It was the only Disneyland that has the testing wall.
Yes, that's one of my favorite.
Go for it.
Yeah, one of my favorite aspects in Anaheim is the testing wall, which is this brick wall that Walt wanted to see. He wasn't sure if he wanted straight bricks or those wavy, kind of distorted bricks. So they actually built a wall that was half and half so he could decide what he liked better. And he went with the straight brick.
Right, and it's on Main Street. They still have it up, so
Yeah.
you can walk over there and look at it. It also has the bench that he conceived Disneyland on. So there's a lot of stuff like that the original Disneyland, legends, the Cat Army or the basketball court underneath Matterhorn, that the original Disneyland is just different. It's the original one.
Yeah, and everything's trying to imitate it. All the other Disneylands are coming after that one. So we kind of took it out of the running. Because its rides are, you could argue that its rides, some of them are outdated. You could argue that that's what makes them classic and originals in comparison on looking on a wide stream. So we kind of took that out because that kind of has the special place, I think, in both of our hearts.
Totally. So Monica and I each picked our own favorite ones because it was difficult to pick one. And I'm going to go first. And my answer comes from really not knowing what to expect from this Disneyland in this country. And my answer is Hong Kong Disney. Hong Kong Disney is about maybe half the size of our Disneyland. It is about, their castle is about half the size. It's much smaller as the Disneyland goes. But that really made it much more intimate, which I thought was really neat, is that you didn't have to wait a long time for the ride. You felt like it was a familiar carnival that you've been to before. Well, Disneyland itself is really big and there's a lot of people there, and a lot of parks, Shanghai Disney was huge. But Hong Kong felt intimate, it was my park, and I really loved that feeling.
And like you were saying too, I think I kind of fell in love with Hong Kong a little bit when we first got there. When we walked in, their main street kind of looks like you took our main street and just kind of went and shrunk it down into this little version. It just feels like a tiny little version. And then their castle is height-wise way shorter than any of the other castles, but it also has this really beautiful wall that kind of goes around it, and then this green mountain behind it.
Yes.
It's very picturesque. It looks like a real castle you would come across, and you just kind of felt like you stumbled upon this place.
That's what it felt like, honestly. Yeah. And also, I'm not a big person that has to take pictures of characters. When I go to Disneyland, I'm not oh, I gotta take a picture with Mickey Mouse or Goofy or whatever. Here, it was so easy to walk up to a character. First of all, there weren't a lot of lines. And that's where we started taking pictures of the characters, really, because it was so easy and it was so fun. I got my picture with Chewbacca and R2-D2, and Monica has a funny story about being swarmed by stormtroopers.
Oh, yeah, it was one of those funny stories where I wish David had been there for it, but it never would have happened if David was with me, because we had actually stopped over by a restroom. He had gone in, and I'm sitting down, and all of a sudden I just hear this, like, "Stop, what are you doing?" And I, like, look up, and a stormtrooper has his gun, like, pointed at me, and I'm like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Stormtrooper." And we just had this whole interaction, and they're asking where my alliances lay. I got a great picture of him, like, pushing in my cheek. And Phasma was there, and she's yelling at me, and we had this whole interaction, and it was the funniest, craziest, like, what is going on here experience. And he came out of the bathroom, and I'm like, "You will never believe what just happened. You missed the most awesome," and like, he is huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
He would have loved that moment.
One of the other reasons I liked it was their Haunted Mansion. We're big Haunted Mansion fans when we go. And that's one of the things is we want to hit every Haunted Mansion and see how different they were. Their Haunted Mansion was so different, and part of it was culturally, they don't believe in ghosts. They believe in ancestors who passed on. So your ancestor wouldn't haunt you like in the Haunted Mansion. They may visit you, but they wouldn't haunt you any more than your living relative would come and haunt you, you know?
So Mystic Manor is probably one of my favorite rides at Hong Kong Disney. It's about this adventurer and his pet monkey who go around and collect all these artifacts and keep them in their mansion, and the monkey brings everything to life accidentally, and the entire mansion tries to attack you. So it's kind of like Night at the Museum, but like Haunted Mansion edition. It's so different and interesting, and the funniest part was when we got off the ride, we said to the woman who was working it, we're like, "Wow, that was so different from Haunted Mansion." And she goes, "Oh no, it's the same ride, we just don't have ghosts." And I was like, "That's like the entire ride."
Yeah,
Ghosts.
the Haunted Mansion. So,
Yeah.
but it was really neat to see that difference. But Monica has a funny story about Disney pins, a specific Disney pin.
Oh yeah, so we were trading the pins there, and it was really fun because obviously most of them were in Cantonese or Mandarin. And we got this one pin that was obviously a pirate's pin, so we asked the girl what it said, and she goes, "Oh, when a man is murdered, he cannot tell on the person who did it." And we're like, "Excuse me?" And it took us a minute to realize that it's Dead Men Tell No Tales, but when translated, totally sounded different.
Still dark.
So much darker. I mean, I guess Dead Men Tell No Tales is pretty dark too.
Yeah.
But talking about murder.
Another thing is, when we were there, it was the soft launch of the Iron Man ride, and they had this little like Tony Stark Expo. That was really neat, actually.
It was.
One thing about, and we're going to do another episode that's just about rides, but Disney's really up in their game about the lines. So getting in the line to the Iron Man ride was just neat. We'll talk more about that in another episode. But it was really neat to be there for that soft launch. The hotel stay was excellent. We stayed at the Hollywood Hotel.
And we could see the fireworks from our room too.
Oh my god! We were facing the Mystic, I totally forgot about that. We were facing the Mystic Manor and we saw the fireworks. Oh dude, I just got the chills right now. That was such a fun stay. That was my favorite Disneyland.
And my favorite Disneyland is actually Paris.
Yes.
Which I'm using the cup for right now. I had heard a lot of mixed things about Paris. So I was actually the most nervous about Paris because that's the one I think I know the most people who've been to that one. And some people love it, some people were disappointed. And I think we happened to go at like the perfect time of year. Our very first sight of Paris Disneyland was actually at night. Mm-hmm. With our stay, it included like a 3-day hopper pass. So we figured we were gonna do the full next day and half of the day after. So we might as well go for the last like 2 or 3 hours that the park was open. Yep. And when we walked in, it like
beautiful.
Overwhelmingly beautiful. Like it was set up for Christmas, so everything just sparkled, and they had like this fake snow areas, and the castle was sparkling. Yes. And it's my favorite castle of all the castles anyway, but then to see it like that, you're just like, it was amazing. So that was like our first sight, and like seeing everything at night was so beautiful.
one of my favorite parts was actually hidden underneath the castle. It was kind of hidden. You had to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, there's actually an animatronic dragon that like lives under the castle. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire park. It was kind of hidden. You're going down a path and you have to like know where to turn because there's only a sign maybe this big and it's just kind of like Maleficent horns, and then it's in French and it basically says like the layer of the dragon or something.
Yeah. And the design is not like some like ha 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 happy. It looks like a realistic dragon.
Yeah, and it's dark. You get in there and it's like the cave is dark and the dragon just kind of like is disgruntled and breathing smoke, and there's like human bones.
Yes.
So cool.
Very neat.
Stylistically, I think Disney Paris was just beautiful. I loved the layout of it. I loved their Phantom Manor, which is probably my favorite ride of any of the parks, which is their Haunted Mansion. Overlooks like Frontierland and Big Thunder Mountain, and just like the shots of it were, it was breathtaking.
It was.
And being there when the weather was like that too, because it was kind of, the mornings were kind of foggy and there's that snow everywhere, and
it was romantic. It was really wonderful for a wedding and for a honeymoon. But Disneyland Paris has the Paris Disneyland. It also has like studios like they have in Florida. And the studios don't have as many rides, but they do have a section. Not only do they have a ride we like a lot, Crush's.
Yeah, they have a Finding Nemo ride where you're in Crush, like you're in a turtle and you go backwards and forwards and you twist, and so it's this roller coaster and you're moving around and your cart's moving this way and on a track. So
and that's really
it was awesome. It was so much fun.
That's only at that park, I believe.
Yes.
Then there's another section of it that's only this park. It's this Ratatouille land, and it's just the design for it is
beautiful.
awesome.
And I mean, of course, it looks just like Paris, and you're in Paris. But so they know what it looks like there. So you have this like whole section like that, and you have a Ratatouille ride, which was awesome. You get into like a mouse or a rat, and you ride around like what's the rat's name?
Remy.
Remy, like you're Remy. Paris had a really good selection of stuffed animals, so I ended up getting a Remy there and a Lucifer.
How often do you see Lucifer?
Because when you see Lucifer, and he's like, who doesn't want a little evil cat in their house? Kind of funny that I also bought a rat. They stay on different shelves.
They do.
In the ride, you're Remy size, and you go like on his adventure that he went on in the movie where he's running through the kitchen, and so you have this whole like awesome adventure, and it's a free floating track, like magnetic. And then afterwards we went to the Ratatouille restaurant.
Yes, and the Ratatouille restaurant is delicious. Like, we got reservations there, and the food is amazing. The staff, I wish we could remember his name. Our server told us like Disney trivia. Like Disney, I'm gonna chop this up a little bit, so correct me. That wasn't his original last name.
So there was this butter, and the butter was like Disney.
It was like D apostrophe I-S-G-N-Y or something.
Yeah, there was like an extra letter and an apostrophe in there. And that was their French name before he moved to America. When his family moved to America, it got changed to Disney.
Yeah.
So, but there's like a butter company.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
the dairy.
There's like, yeah, they're the OG Disneys. Disneys, however you say it. So yeah, and the restaurant makes it look the same as the ride, where you shrink down and everything around you is huge. So like your chair is actually like a bottle top or a wine cork, and it's such a cool atmosphere. The plates are like, huge, because that would be the size of a plate if you were a rat.
And I don't want to say that it's all just environmental, because environment was amazing. Because the
food was good too, though.
The food was so good. Like, so it was just a great experience all the way around.
It's definitely enjoyable. And some of my other favorite aspects of Paris was the Phantom Manor, which I touched on a little. The Phantom Manor is probably my favorite ride of anywhere. It's their version of Haunted Mansion, and it is so dark. It's much darker than ours. They get so many people from around the world who speak so many different languages that the Imagineers decided they couldn't tell a story how they do in ours, where they speak to you in the dune buggy and tell you like a little bit of what's going on. So they decided they needed to make this visual story. So they decided to tell a story of a bride whose fiance has died, and like this whole tragic story that ends in hell or like a zombie version of Frontierland. So interesting, so dark.
So how different was the Haunted Mansion, or the Phantom Manor?
It was extremely different. I was not expecting it to be. The one at Magic Kingdom is only slightly different than the one at Disneyland. Has a different line and more in the beginning. This is a completely different story. The pictures are these classic pictures that are not the same as ours, but still like stretch out into something eerie. And it's all about the bride, and all of it is so well done inside. The animatronics and everything are super intense and kind of creepy, and this really dark rooms you go through. I have no words. Like, we just got off and we're about to go back on again. See, one of our kind of fun stories we had was,
this was awesome.
The second day we were there, it's the end of the night, the park's closing, and we run onto haunted.
And I think we've done it twice in a row, right?
We'd already done it, yeah. We'd done it like twice that day already, and I think we'd already done it earlier, and then we kind of ran, and then we came back. So we're running onto Phantom Manor, because we want to do it one more last time at the end of the night. And there's maybe like 6 people with us. So we get into like the elevator, or the room that stretches, and the guy does his little spiel in French and asks us if anyone speaks English, and we say we do, and he comes and he stands behind us and he translates the whole thing for us, and it's almost exactly the same except for like how they die. Like there's like one word different, but I think it's just translation, and it was so interesting to hear, but all the pictures are different. Like in ours, it's a couple different pictures. This one, it's all that same woman, and it's all pictures of her. So it was really interesting to like hear him say it all. So then we started asking him all these questions about things we noticed, and we wanted to know the story, which is how I know the story I was saying earlier. So we're talking to him for at least 5 or 10 minutes, and during this time, the 6 people that are with us have gone.
It was awesome.
And are already on the ride, and they're long gone. So it's the end of the night, there's no more people getting on this ride. So we go to get on, there's literally only like the person who's working there. We get on, and then we kind of are looking around, and we're like, oh, it's really empty, there's no one around. So then, you're on the little dune buggies, and you shift, and you can see in either direction, and you're like, it's a little bit creepy.
And it's a really unsettling, because one of the first things you see when you come around the corner is the bride, and she has a candle, and she like leans into the...
And there's like no face because the veil's covering, and she's like right there, and like, so there's a couple like jaunting things like right around corners, and so we're like, okay, we're kind of laughing, and like, we're like, this is really creepy. Then we get to the like ballroom scene, which is different, but it's still like that big ballroom area, and we stop. And our back's to a wall, so you can't really see behind you, and you can see in both directions, there's no one around you, and it's so dark that it just kind of like ends, where you can't really see anything after a certain while. So we're kind of sitting there for a second, and it's like doing its little spiel in French of like, probably like, just hold on a moment, we'll be up and running in a second. But it was in French, so I have no idea what it said. And we're, sitting there, and all of a sudden we both start being like, how creepy would it be if like our tour guide just kind of like popped his head around?
How are you guys doing? And I would just lose it at the screen.
So we kept laughing about it because we're like, oh yeah, he's gonna like pop around and scare us. And I mean, obviously we knew logically that wasn't gonna happen, but it totally creeped us out. So we spent the whole rest of the ride, like once we started moving again, kind of being like, it was awesome.
One's on the right.
And then I think the other thing I wanted to touch on from Paris that I loved was they actually have an Alice in Wonderland hedge maze.
Yes.
And this one is based off of the cartoon Alice in Wonderland, which is my favorite. There's a hedge maze for Alice in Shanghai, but that's based off of the Tim Burton one. So cool, but I'm a classics. So that hedge maze was amazing, and it was covered in snow while we were there, so it was really cool. And you go under like the deck of cards, and the queen would kind of like jump up, and there's like the part you kind of go in a spiral around the area where you're like following the dodo bird getting dry, and that was a really cool aspect.
It was really neat. There were so many beautiful aspects. Like there was this bridge between the Pirates Land and the Fantasyland that was really beautiful. and there was the Skull Rock.
The Skull Rock was amazing. Like they have this pirates area, and they actually have Skull Rock from Peter Pan, which is one of my favorites. So that was so cool to see all those like stylistic aspects.
Also, their Indiana Jones was very different.
It was a roller coaster instead.
Yeah, it was still fun. It was more, but it was.
But it wasn't like don't have your hopes up for like an Indiana Jones adventure. It's like a little like it's more like there's one in Tokyo that's kind of similar where you're more just like a roller coaster through some ruins.
Yeah. Totally. But so that's the answer to the question we get asked the most. What was your favorite Disneyland park in the world? I know it's Hong Kong, and Monica's was Paris.
Paris, with OG Disney kind of just being taken out of the running because it's always going to be right up there.
Right. And we have a couple more episodes coming, so stay tuned. Check our page later for more videos. Thank you for support and always watching. Please like, comment, and share our videos. That helps us out tremendously as we continue on more adventures.
Happy adventures! Pride would like to apologize for all of his disturbances today. No, he doesn't really seem like he wants to apologize. What do you have to say for yourself, mister? That's in his own words.